Hi guys, tonight we are going to explore what it was like to live as a geisha in historical Japan. Take a deep breath and settle into your pillows. Let the weight of your body sink into the mattress, feeling the support of the bed beneath you. Tonight we are leaving the modern world behind the screens, the bright lights, the constant noise, and traveling back to a time of soft shadows and slow movements. We are going to the Edo period, to the city of Kyoto, where the air smells of cedar and rain, and time flows as gently as the Como River. Close your eyes. Imagine the world fading to a soft charcoal grey. There is no rush here. There is only the rhythm of your breath and the quiet story unfolding in your mind. You find yourself standing at the edge of Kyoto. It is late afternoon, and the sun is a pale, fading gold, dipping behind the western mountains. The air is cool, carrying the faint, crisp scent of pine from the surrounding hills and the damp, earthy aroma of a city that has just seen a light spring shower. You are walking slowly, your footsteps steady and calm. The ground beneath your feet is made of packed earth and smooth stones. As you move toward the heart of the city, the transition is gradual. The wide open spaces of the outskirts begin to narrow into the refined, deliberate architecture of the Edo period. Everything is made of wood-deep, dark browns, weathered greys, and the warm, honey-colored tones of fresh cypress. You aren't in a hurry. You are simply observing. You notice the way the light catches the edges of the tiled roofs. The tiles are curved, like the scales of a sleeping dragon, and they seem to hold the remaining warmth of the day. You watch a single drop of rainwater fall from the eaves of a gate, watching it descend in slow motion until it meets a mossy stone below with a silent, soft impact. As you walk further, you enter the Gian district. This is a place of shadows and secrets, but there is nothing to fear here. It is a world of incredible stillness. The streets are narrow, lined with two-story wooden merchant houses and tea houses known as The wood of these buildings is dark, stained by time and the gentle touch of the mist. Listen to the sounds of Gion. It is not a loud place. Instead, it is a symphony of small, delicate noises. You hear the rhythmic clack-clack of wooden getter sandals on the cobblestones somewhere in the distance, a steady, comforting beat that echoes softly against the wooden walls. There is the low, muffled murmur of voices behind paper screens, so soft they sound like the rustling of dry leaves. And then there is the music. It is very faint, drifting on the breeze from an upper window. It is the sound of a shamisen. The notes are plucked slowly, with long pauses in between. Ting, ting. The vibration of the silk strings seems to hang in the cool air, vibrating at the same frequency as your own heartbeat. It is a lonely sound, but a beautiful one, grounding you in this moment of peace. The sun has finally set, and the world is now painted in shades of indigo and ink. But Gian is not dark. As you walk, you see the lanterns being lit. They are made of delicate washi paper, stretched over bamboo frames. One by one, they glow into life, casting a warm amber light across the street. The light does not pierce the darkness. It embraces it. The lanterns sway ever so slightly in the evening draft, and the shadows on the ground sway with them. You watch the flickering orange glow reflect in the small puddles left by the rain. Each puddle is like a tiny, liquid mirror, holding a piece of the sky and a piece of the lantern light. You stop for a moment to just breathe in this light. It is soft on your eyes. It makes the world feel small and safe. The textures of the wood around you become more pronounced in the lamplight, the grain of the cedar, The roughness of the bark, the smooth polish of a handrail that has been touched by 1,000 hands over many years. Everything feels intentional. Everything has a place. You find yourself standing before a specific door. This is the okiya, the geisha house that will be your home. It is a modest entrance, but it is kept with perfect care. The entranceway, the jenkin, is swept clean. A small stone basin of water sits to the side, with a bamboo ladle resting across its rim. The water is still, reflecting the stars that are just beginning to peek through the clouds. You reach out and slide the wooden door open. It moves with a heavy, satisfying smoothness. The sound of the wood sliding in its track is a low, grounded hum. As you step inside, the smell changes. Inside the okiya, the air is thick with the scent of incense, a blend of sandalwood, agar wood, and a hint of dried plum blossoms. It is a heavy, sweet smell that settles in your lungs and tells your body it is time to rest. Beneath the incense, there is the clean, grassy scent of fresh tatami mats. You remove your shoes and step up onto the raised floor. The straw mats feel firm yet slightly springy under your feet. They are cool to the touch. The texture is intricate, a fine weave of dried grass that feels like a gentle massage against your soles. You take a step and then another, moving deeper into the quiet heart of the house. In the inner room, sitting by a low charcoal brazier, is the okiya, the mother of the house. She is an older woman, her face a map of stories, but her expression is one of profound stillness. She is wearing a kimono of muted silk, a deep slate blue that looks like the ocean at dusk. She doesn't move quickly. She looks up and offers a very slow, very slight nod. The movement of her silk sleeves makes a soft shush sound, like water flowing over smooth stones. She pours a cup of tea. You watch the steam rise from the cup in long, twisting ribbons. It moves so slowly, curling and disappearing into the shadows of the ceiling. She gestures for you to sit. As you settle onto the floor, you feel the warmth of the charcoal brazier. It is a dry, comforting heat that radiates outward, warming your hands and your face. The okiya speaks, and her voice is low and melodic, like the hum of a honeybee. She speaks of the traditions of the house, of the art of silence, and the beauty of small gestures. You don't need to memorize the words. You only need to feel the weight of her presence, which is as steady as a mountain. You realize that in this house, there is no such thing as fast. Everything from the way a cup is held to the way a word is spoken is done with a gentle, deliberate slowness. You sit there for a long time, watching the glowing embers of the charcoal. They pulse with a soft red light, fading and brightening, in time with your breathing. Outside, the wind picks up just enough to rustle the bamboo in the small inner courtyard. She wash. The world outside the okiya begins to feel very far away. The politics of the shogun, the bustle of the markets, the noise of the world, all of it is muffled by the thick wooden walls and the heavy silk curtains. Here you are protected. Here, the only thing that matters is the temperature of the tea and the softness of the shadows. You feel a profound sense of heaviness in your limbs, but it is a good heaviness. It is the feeling of being exactly where you are supposed to be. Your eyes trace the patterns on the paper screens, the shoji. The light from the street filters through the paper, turning it into a soft, glowing canvas. You can see the silhouette of a pine branch pressed against the other side, a delicate, dark shape against the amber paper. The okiya rises, her movements fluid and silent. She leads you toward the back of the house, where the sleeping quarters are. Every step is a lesson in grace. You follow her, feeling the cool air of the hallway and the warmth of the rooms as you pass them. You reach a small, quiet room. The floor is covered in the same clean tatami. In the center, a futon has been laid out for you. The sheets are made of heavy, cool cotton, bleached white and smelling of the sun and the wind. You watch as the okiya places a small paper lamp by your bedside. She turns the wick down until the flame is just a tiny, golden bead. The room falls into a deep, velvety dimness. She bows slowly, her silk robes whispering one last time, and then she slides the door shut. You are alone in the silence. But it is not an empty silence. It is a full, rich silence, blooming with the history of this house and the many women who have slept here before you. You lie down on the futon. The pillow is firm, filled with buckwheat hulls that make a tiny, rustling sound as you settle your head. It is the sound of 1,000 tiny secrets. You pull the heavy quilt over you. It is weighted and warm, pressing down on you with a gentle, reassuring force. You feel your breath slowing down. The air in the room is cool on your cheeks, but your body is cocooned in warmth through the thin walls. You hear the distant chime of a temple bell, gong. The sound is so deep and so low that you feel it in your chest more than you hear it in your ears. It vibrates through the wooden floor, through the futon, and into your bones. It is the sound of the day ending. It is the sound of Kyoto falling asleep. You think about the streets of Gion, the lanterns glowing like fallen stars, the sound of the geta on the stones, and the slow, wandering melody of the shamisen. All of it is still there, moving at its own pace, while you lie here in the dark. Your eyes are very heavy now. The scent of the incense has faded to a mere memory, a ghostly sweetness in the air. The charcoal in the brazier in the other room has turned to grey ash, holding its heat deep inside. The morning arrives not with a shout, but with the palest sliver of grey light filtering through the paper screens. You wake before the sun has even cleared the eastern peaks of Higashiyama. The room is cool, the air holding that crisp, thin quality of early dawn in Kyoto. For a long moment, you simply lie still beneath the heavy, warm weight of your quilt. You listen to the house. An okiya has its own breath, a slow and rhythmic expansion and contraction of wood and paper. You hear the faint, distant sound of a wooden bucket meeting the stone floor of the kitchen. Thump. It is a dull, grounded sound. Then the trickling of water. Splash, splash. It is the first music of the day. You push back the heavy covers, and the cool air meets your skin. It is refreshing, a gentle wake-up call that asks nothing of you but to move slowly. You fold your bedding with deliberate care. The cotton sheets are smooth under your palms, and as you smooth out the wrinkles, you feel the grain of the tatami through the fabric. This is the beginning of your life as a Mako, an apprentice of the flower and willow world. It is a life built on the foundation of small, repetitive motions. You carry your bedding to the cupboard, sliding the wooden door open. The track is well worn, and the door glides with a familiar, low-frequency hum. Everything in this house has a sound. Everything has a texture. Before you can learn the dance, before you can touch the silk, you must learn the wood. You begin your chores. In these early days, cleaning is not a task to be finished. It is a meditation. You take a small white cloth and dip it into a basin of cold water. You wring it out until it is just damp, the water cool against your knuckles. You kneel at the end of the long wooden hallway. The floorboards are wide and dark, polished by decades of soft footsteps and damp cloths. You place the cloth flat against the wood. You begin to move. You push the cloth away from you, then pull it back. Swish, swish. The sound is like a long, slow breath. You watch the way the dampness darkens the wood for a fleeting second before the air drinks the moisture away. You notice the tiny imperfections in the grainer swirl here, not there. You move slowly, one board at a time. There is no rush. If you rush, you miss the feel of the wood. If you rush, you miss the quiet. Your knees move rhythmically over the mats, and your breath settles into the pace of your arms. Push, pull, swish. The hallway seems to stretch on forever in the dim light, a path of dark mirrors. As you clean, you are also cleaning your mind. The worries of the outside world, the questions of who you were before begin to dissolve into the repetitive motion. You are becoming the rhythm of the house. You are the cloth, the water, and the wood. Later, as the sun begins to turn, the paper screens a soft, buttery yellow. It is time to dress. This is a process that takes a long, long time. In the okiya, time is measured not by clocks, but by the layers of fabric. You were given your first apprentice kimono. It is not the flashy silk of a senior geisha, but a sturdy, elegant cotton for your morning lessons. You feel the weight of it in your arms. It is heavier than you expected, a comforting gravity that reminds you of your new role. You begin with the innermost layer, the hada. It is thin, soft gauze. It feels like a second skin, light and airy. Then comes the nagajuban, the collar is stiff, holding your neck in a position of quiet dignity. You learn to move your head slowly, feeling the slight friction of the fabric against your skin. Then, the kimono itself is draped over your shoulders. The fabric is cool and crisp. You learn the ritual of the taiste-kushi. You wrap the silk cord around your waist, pulling it just tight enough to feel supported, but not so tight that you cannot breathe. You breathe in, and the cord holds you. You breathe out, and you settle into the garment. The most difficult part is the obi, the long sash. You watch as an older sister helps you, her movements precise and practiced. You hear the scrunch of the stiff fabric as it is folded and tucked. You feel the pressure against your midsection, a firm embrace that changes your posture. You stand taller. Your center of gravity shifts downward, toward the earth. You feel grounded, like a tree rooted in the deep soil of Kyoto. You look at your hands emerging from the long, swinging sleeves. They look different now. They look like they belong to a story. You move your arm, and the sleeve follows a heartbeat later, a slow, graceful shadow of your own movement in the quiet afternoons, when the house is still and the light is golden and thick with dust motes. You are permitted to sit in the corner of the main room. You are told to be the shadow on the wall. You are there to watch, to listen, and to absorb. Across the room, a senior geisha Gaiko is preparing for an evening engagement. She moves with a terrifyingly beautiful economy of motion. She does not fidget. She does not make unnecessary gestures. You watch her hands. She is folding a fan. Click. The ribs of the fan come together with a sound as sharp and clean as a single drop of water hitting a pond. She lays it down on the table. The movement is so smooth it looks as if the fan simply drifted there on its own. She catches your eye in the mirror, but she does not smile. Her expression is one of profound, serene neutrality. It is the face of a mountain or a lake in the moonlight. You realize that her beauty comes not from her features, but from her stillness. You try to mimic her, You sit on your heels, your back straight, your hands resting in your lap. You focus on being still. You feel a stray hair tickle your forehead, but you do not move to brush it away. You let the sensation exist. You watch it rise and then, slowly, fade away. You listen to the sound of the Geisha breathing. It is deep and slow. You try to match your breath to hers. In this room, the silence has a texture. It feels heavy and soft, like a layer of fresh snow. You realize that communication here happens in the gaps between words. It is in the way she tilts her head, the way she pauses before picking up a cup, the way she looks at the garden without seeing it. You are learning the language of silence. As the afternoon wanes, you are tasked with preparing tea for the occasion. This is your first lesson in the ceremony of the everyday. You go to the kitchen and take down the ceramic bowls. They are heavy and cool. You feel the slight roughness of the glaze, the tiny pits and bumps that make each bowl unique. You carry them to the hearth, moving with the slow, gliding step you have been practicing the shuriashi. You keep your feet close to the floor, sliding them forward so that your upper body remains perfectly level. You sit before the iron kettle. The water is beginning to simmer. It makes a sound the Japanese call the wind in the pines, a low, hissing drone that fills the small room. It is a lonely, comforting sound. You take the bamboo whisk. It is light, made of a single piece of bamboo split into 100 delicate tines. You measure out the bright green matcha powder. It smells of cut grass and ancient earth. You pour the hot water and the steam rises, carrying the scent upward to your face. You whisk the tea. Whisk, whisk, whisk. The sound is soft and frothy. You watch the bubbles form, a delicate emerald foam rising to the surface. Your wrist moves in a tight, controlled arc. You are not thinking about the tea. You are thinking about the movement. The movement is the tea. When you present the bowl to the okiya, you turn it twice in your hands, showing her the best side of the ceramic. You bow low, your forehead nearly touching the tatami. You stay there for a moment, feeling the warmth of the tea bowl radiating through the air. She takes the bowl. You hear the soft sound of her sipping. Sip. The silence returns, deeper than before. She sets the bowl down. She says nothing, but the way she relaxes her shoulders tells you that the tea was correct. The tea was peace. As evening approaches, the okiya begins to transform. The light turns a deep, bruised purple outside, and the lanterns are once again brought to life. You help the senior sisters with their preparations. You hold the mirror as they apply the white shiranuri makeup to their necks. You watch the brush move in long, rhythmic strokes. Stroke, stroke. The white paste is cool and thick. It masks the skin, turning the human into an icon. You watch the way they paint the two prongs on the nape of the neck, the area. It is a sacred geometry. You are surrounded by the rustle of expensive silk. The okiya is full of the sound of sliding doors and muffled footsteps. There is a sense of purpose, but never a sense of rush. Even as the sisters prepare to leave for the tea houses of Gyeong, they move with a deliberate, haunting slowness. You stand by the door as they depart. Each one steps into their high wooden sandals. Clack. They step out into the evening mist. You watch their silhouettes disappear down the narrow alleyway, the glowing lanterns swaying behind them like fireflies. Now, the house is yours to tend. You walk back through the empty rooms. The incense from the dressing hour still lingers, sweet, powdery scent that clings to the wooden beams. You begin the evening chores. You check the oil in the lamps. You ensure the charcoal in the brazier is banked for the night. You find yourself standing in the small interior garden. It is just a few square feet of moss, a single stone lantern, and a small maple tree. The rain begins to fall, a light, misty drizzle that makes no sound on the moss, but creates a soft tink-tink on the stone basin. The rain has stopped, and the morning air in the courtyard of the okiya is thick with the scent of damp moss and cold stone. You are sitting on the edge of the wooden veranda, the ingawa, with your feet tucked beneath you. The wood is cool against your shins, a solid and unyielding presence that anchors you to the earth. Today, the world of the Mako expands beyond the cleaning cloth and the tea bowl. Today, you begin to invite the arts into your body, letting them settle into your muscles like the mist settles into the hollows of the hills. There is no rush to begin. In Kyoto, in this house, the preparation is as important as the act itself. You sit in silence, watching a single crow glide across the pale, milky sky. You watch the way its wings move slow, deliberate beats that seem to push the air aside rather than fight against it. You breathe in, feeling the cool air travel down your throat, and you breathe out, letting your shoulders drop just a fraction of an inch. You move into the practice room. It is a small space, sparse and clean, with nothing to distract the eye. In the center of the room sits the shamisen. It rests on its stand, a beautiful, skeletal thing made of dark, polished wood and stretched catskin. Its neck is long and elegant, tapering toward the pegs that hold the thick, yellow silk strings. You kneel before it. The first lesson is not how to play, but how to sit. You must become a tripod of stability. Your weight is distributed evenly between your knees and your heels. Your spine is a column of light, stretching upward while your tailbone sinks toward the tatami. You feel the tension in your thighs, a dull, steady ache that you acknowledge and then let go. It is part of the landscape of your body now. You pick up the bocce, the large plectrum made of heavy, ivory-colored resin. It is cool and weighted in your palm. You feel the edges, sharp and precise. You are taught how to hold it, not with a grip of iron, but with a firm, flexible grace. Your fingers must be both strong and soft, like the bamboo that bends in a storm, but does not break. You bring the bocce down toward the lowest string, ting. The sound is sudden and sharp, vibrating through the wood of the instrument and into your chest. It is a lonely note. You do not follow it with another. Instead, you listen to the decay of the sound. You listen as the vibration grows smaller and smaller, thinning out until it is a mere thread of a memory. And then, finally, silence. You wait. You do not strike again until the silence is absolute. This is the discipline of the Mako. You are learning that the space between the notes is as sacred as the notes themselves. Ting. The sound ripples through the quiet room. You watch your left hand as it presses down on the silk string. The string is rough, a twisted cord that leaves a faint indentation on the tip of your finger. You do not flinch. You press harder, feeling the resistance of the wood beneath the silk. You pluck the string again, and this time the note is higher, a clear, ringing bell that seems to hang in the air like a jewel. Hours pass. You do not know how many. Time in the practice room does not move in minutes. It moves in repetitions. You strike the string. You listen. You adjust your posture. You strike the string. You listen. The sun moves across the paper screens, shifting the shadows of the wooden frames across the floor. You watch the shadow lines crawl slowly, slowly, over your knees. marking the passage of the afternoon in silent, golden increments. When the shamisen is put away, it is time for the dance. This is the art of the body, the art of making the invisible visible. You stand in the center of the room. You are given a folding fan. It is weighted at the base with lead, giving it a balanced, purposeful feel. You hold it closed, resting it against your thigh. Your teacher, an older woman whose movements are as fluid as water, stands before you. She does not speak much. She demonstrates a single movement, the unfolding of the fan. She moves her hand in a slow, upward arc. It is not a gesture. It is a trajectory. The fan opens with a soft, rhythmic clackfoosh. The sound of the paper expanding is like a sudden intake of breath. She holds the fan aloft, her eyes following the tip of the bamboo ribs. You attempt to mirror her. You lift your arm, but your movement feels heavy, clumsy. You feel the weight of your sleeves pulling at your shoulders. You try again. Softly, she whispers. Her voice is like the rustle of silk. Do not move the fan. Let the air move the fan. You close your eyes and try to imagine your arm is not made of bone and muscle, but of light. You lift your hand again. This time, you do not focus on the muscles. You focus on the space around your hand. You feel the slight resistance of the air. You open the fan, clackfoosh. The sound is better, this time cleaner. You hold the pose. Your arm begins to tremble from the effort of holding it perfectly still, but you do not lower it. You breathe through the tremble. You feel the blood pulsing in your fingertips. You are a statue made of breath and silk. The dance is a series of these moments' stillness, followed by a slow, gliding transition, then stillness again. You learn the shuriashi walk once more, but now it must be integrated with the torso and the head. You slide your right foot forward, the ball of your foot never leaving the tatami. You shift your weight. You slide your left foot. Slide, pause, slide, pause. It is a hypnotic rhythm. You feel as though you are walking through water. The room begins to feel larger, the air thicker. You are not just a girl in a room. You are a vessel for a tradition that is hundreds of years old. Every tilt of your chin, every flicker of your gaze, has been performed by thousands of women before you. You feel their presence in the shadows of the room, a quiet, supportive gallery of ghosts as the light begins to fail, turning the garden into a landscape of ink and charcoal. You return to the study of the tea ceremony. While you learned the basics before, now you learn the internal state. The Okusan sits with you. She watches as you prepare the charcoal fire. You use a pair of iron chopsticks to arrange the pieces of black wood. They must be placed just so, leaving gaps for the air to breathe life into the embers. You place a single piece of incense on the edge. The smoke rises in a straight, thin line, unbothered by any draft. You watch the smoke. It is perfectly vertical. You try to make your mind, like that smoke and wavering, focused, rising toward a single point of clarity. The water begins to boil. You listen to the sound. This is the Mushin state, the mind of no mind. You are not thinking about the steps of the ceremony. You are not thinking about the guest. You are only the sound of the water. You take the silk cloth, the fukusa, and you fold it. The folding is a ritual of purification. You wipe the tea scoop, a thin sliver of bamboo. You move your hand in a circle, a slow, clockwise motion that seems to draw the energy of the room into the center of the mat. Everything is slow. Everything is quiet. The only sounds are the hiss of the kettle, The soft clink of the bamboo scoop against the ceramic bowl, and the distant, muffled calls of the evening birds outside. You whisk the tea. This time, your hand is steadier. The foam is thick and uniform, a sea of tiny, vibrant bubbles. You offer the bowl. As the occasion takes it, you look at the garden. The maples are now just dark shapes against the deepening blue of the sky. You realize that the tea is not about the drink. It is about the shared silence. It is about the fact that for these 20 minutes, the entire world has ceased to exist outside of this small, warm circle of light. There is no past. There is no future. There is only the warmth of the bowl and the smell of the damp earth. Night falls, but your work is not done. The life of a Mako is built on the foundation of long, lonely hours of repetition. You return to your room, but you do not go to sleep. You take your shamisen and sit in the corner, where the light of the paper lamp is dim. You play the same 3 notes over and over again. Ting, ting, ting. Your fingers are sore. Your back is tired. But there is a strange, meditative comfort in the fatigue. It is a physical manifestation of your dedication. You are carving these arts into your soul. You practice the movement of your hands. You practice the way you sit. You practice the way you breathe. You become a student of your own body. You notice the way your heart rate slows when you focus on the tip of the shamisen neck. You notice the way the air feels on your skin when you move your arm in the arc of the dance. The house is profoundly still. The senior sisters have not yet returned from their evening appointments. You are the only one awake in this part of the okiya. You feel like a sentinel guarding the quiet. The repetition becomes a lullaby. You are no longer consciously deciding to play the notes. The notes are playing you. The instrument and your body have become a single entity. The silk strings are an extension of your nerves. The wood is an extension of your bones. You find yourself staring at the flame of the lamp. It flickers ever so slightly, a tiny dance of gold and shadow. You realize that you are learning the greatest art of all, the art of waiting. You are waiting for your skills to ripen. You are waiting for your body to fully inhabit the kimono. You are waiting for the city of Kyoto to reveal its deeper secrets to you. And in this waiting, there is no anxiety. There is only a deep, profound patience. You are like the moss in the garden, growing slowly, day by day, breath by breath, until you have covered the stone in a carpet of velvet green. The house is breathing a different air today. It is not the air of chores or the air of lonely practice, but the air of a debut. The sun has begun its slow descent, casting long honey-colored rectangles across the tatami mats of the dressing room. You sit perfectly still on your heels, your hands resting palms down on your thighs. Today, you are not just a shadow on the wall. Today, you are the art itself. The preparation begins in the deepest silence. There is no music, only the distant, muffled sound of a broom on the stones outside and the occasional, rhythmic thud of a sliding door. You are facing a large, rectangular mirror framed in dark, polished wood. Your reflection is a blank canvas, a quiet face waiting to be told who it is to become. The occasion kneels behind you. Her presence is a warm, steady weight. She begins by applying a thin layer of wax to your skin, warming it in her palms until it is supple. It smells faintly of chamomile and old wood. She presses it into your forehead, your cheeks, and your chin. It feels like a protective mask, a barrier between the girl you were and the Mako you are about to be. Then comes the Shiranurada, white porcelain makeup. It is a thick paste, cool and damp. She uses a wide, soft brush, dipping it into a bowl of the white liquid. The bristles are like 1,000 tiny fingers walking across your skin. Stroke, stroke, stroke. She starts at the base of your neck and moves upward. The sensation is hypnotic. You watch in the mirror as your tan human skin disappears beneath a layer of pure lunar white. It is cold, and as it dries, you feel it tighten slightly, reminding you to keep your expression neutral and serene. Your face is becoming a sculpture. She leaves 2 prongs of bare skin at the nape of your neck there, Ariashi. This small V shape is a traditional mark of beauty, a reminder of the soft humanity beneath the artifice. You feel the cool air hit that small patch of skin, a sharp contrast to the heavy makeup elsewhere. Next, she takes a small brush tipped with crimson. She applies it to the outer corners of your eyes and the edges of your eyebrows. The red is the color of protection, the color of the sun. It is soft, blended until it looks like a natural flush of the spirit. Finally, she paints your lower lip. Just a small red bud in the center, leaving the rest white. It makes you look like you are holding a secret, a quiet smile that hasn't quite reached the surface. Now it is time for the dressing. You stand up slowly, your limbs feeling heavy and grounded. The okiya's professional dresser, the otokoshi, arrives. He is a man of few words, his movements efficient and respectful. He understands the architecture of the kimono better than anyone. You begin with the nagajuban, the silk undergarment. It is a soft, pale pink, the color of a cherry blossom just before it falls. As it slides over your shoulders, the silk whispers against your skin. She-wit, it is light as air, but it holds the shape of your body. He ties a soft sash around your waist to hold it in place. You feel the first squeeze of the day, a gentle reminder of your center. Next comes the heavy, formal kimono. This one is a deep, midnight blue, decorated with hand-painted cranes flying through a mist of silver clouds. The fabric is heavier, thick, lustrous silk that has a life of its own. As the dresser lifts it, you feel the cool weight of it settle onto your frame. It is not like modern clothing that hangs from the shoulders. It is a structure that you inhabit. He pulls the fabric tight across your back, smoothing out every microscopic wrinkle. His hands move with the precision of a master weaver. He folds the excess fabric at your waist, the ohashiri creating a crisp line. You watch your reflection. The blue of the silk makes your white face glow like a pearl in the deep ocean. The most intense part of the ritual is the tying of the dorari obi, the dangling sash that only a maker wears. This obi is over 6 meters long. It is made of stiff, brocaded silk, woven with threads of real gold and silver. The dresser stands behind you, and you must brace yourself. He wraps the heavy fabric around your midsection once, then twice. With each wrap, he pulls. You feel the air leave your lungs in a soft huff, and you find a new way to breathe higher up in your chest, shallower and more controlled. You are being encased in a beautiful armor. The sound of the stiff brocade rubbing against itself is a deep, rhythmic scrunch. Scrunch. It sounds like footsteps in dry snow. He lifts the remaining length of the obi and begins to fold it into the complex knot behind your back. You feel the weight pulling you backward, and you compensate by leaning slightly forward, finding a perfect new balance. When he is finished, the long ends of the obi hang down almost to your ankles. They feature the crest of your okiya, embroidered in vibrant silks. You are now a walking banner for your house. You are a repository of their history. He adds the obigaion, a braided silk cord that sits over the sash, and the obigage, a soft scarf tucked into the top. Every knot is a prayer. Every fold is a tradition. You feel as though you are being held by the hands of 1,000 years of history. You return to your seat for the hair ornaments. The cans. Your hair has been styled in the Weishinu fashion, a complex arrangement of loops and buns held together with camellia oil. It is stiff and fragrant, smelling of the earth and the flower. The occasion chooses the ornaments for this evening. Since it is your first small gathering, she selects pieces that are delicate. She slides a long silver pin topped with a dangling cluster of silk flowers into the side of your hair. As you move your head, the flowers chime together with a sound so faint, it is almost imaginary. Tinkle, tinkle. She places a tortoiseshell comb at the front, and a small red silk tie at the back of the bun. Each piece adds a tiny bit of weight, a tiny bit of gravity. You feel your neck lengthen. You feel your chin tilt downward naturally. Finally, she holds up a small mirror so you can see the back of your head. You see the white nape, the dark hair, the silver flowers, and the blue silk. You do not recognize yourself. The girl who cleaned the floors this morning is gone. In her place is a creature of myth, a living doll of Gion. Now that you are dressed, you cannot move freely. You must wait for the hour of the gathering. You sit in the quiet room, a masterpiece in repose. You watch the dust motes dancing in the final rays of sunlight. They move in slow, swirling patterns, unaffected by the gravity that holds you. You feel the coolness of the makeup on your skin. You feel the tightness of the obi against your ribs. You feel the weight of the silver in your hair. In this waiting, there is a profound peace. You are not worried about the conversation or the dance. You are simply existing as a beautiful object. You listen to your own heartbeat, muffled by the layers of silk. Thump thump. It is the only thing that belongs to the old you. Everything else belongs to Gian. The light in the room fades from gold to lavender. The shadows stretch out, touching your blue sleeves. You hear the far-off sound of a temple bell. Bong. It marks the transition from the world of the day to the world of the night. The Oka-san enters the room one last time. She carries a small paper lantern. She looks at you, and for the first time, you see a flicker of pride in her eyes. She doesn't speak. She simply nods, and the gesture is enough. You rise to your feet. It is a slow, careful process. You must keep your back perfectly straight, using the strength of your thighs to lift the weight of the silk. You find your balance. You take your first step, the long sleeves of your kimono swaying like the branches of a willow tree in a light breeze. Slide, pause, slide, pause. The sound of your silk rubbing against the tatami is a soft, dry whisper. You move toward the door, toward the narrow streets of Gion, toward the lanterns and the tea houses. The air outside will be cool. The wooden sandals will clack on the stones. The guests will be waiting, their voices low and expectant. But for now, in this hallway, there is only the silence of the okiya and the steady, calm rhythm of your breath. The heavy wooden door of the okiya slides open with a grounded, familiar groan, and you step out into the evening air of Gion. The transition from the scented, still interior of the house to the open street is a slow sensory shift. The air is sharper here, smelling of river water, charcoal, smoke, and the damp earth of the narrow alleyways. You are standing on your high okobotha, tall, hollow wooden sandals of a mako. With every small, cautious step you take, the small bells hidden inside the hollow would let out a silver, rhythmic chime. Ahring, ahring. It is a lonely, delicate sound that announces your presence to the stones. You walk behind the okiya, following the sway of her dark kimono. Your own long sleeves, heavy with the weight of the embroidered cranes, swing in a slow, pendulum motion against your sides. You are not walking as the girl you were. You are moving as a vessel of fabric and paint. The street is a corridor of shadows and amber light. The lanterns hanging from the eaves of the tea houses flicker as a light breeze passes through, causing the calligraphy on the paper to dance and blur. You hear the distant, muffled laughter from an upper window, and the sharp clack-clack of another geisha sandals somewhere in the labyrinth of streets. But these sounds feel distant, as if they are happening underwater. You are cocooned in your own silence, focused entirely on the placement of your feet and the balance of the heavy obi on your back. You arrive at the entrance of a renowned tea house. The wooden gate is weathered to a soft, silvery grey. You duck your head slightly as you pass through, a gesture of instinctive humility. Inside, the world changes again. The floors here are even more highly polished than those of the okiya. They reflect the light of the lanterns like dark, stagnant pools of tea. You remove your okubo and step up onto the tatami. The straw is fine and cool. You are led to a private room at the back of the house, overlooking a tiny, enclosed garden. The paper screens are slid open just a few inches, allowing the sound of a trickling stone fountain to bleed into the room. Drip, plop, drip. It is a constant, watery heartbeat. In the center of the room, a low table is set. The guests are already there, men in dark silk kimonos, their faces softened by the dim light and the warmth of the sake. As you enter, the conversation does not stop, but it dips in volume. A subtle acknowledgement of the art that has just walked into the room. You do not look anyone in the eye. You keep your gaze lowered, focusing on the hem of your kimono as you glide toward your designated place. You sink to your knees. The process of kneeling in a formal kimono is a slow-motion collapse of silk. You tuck your toes, lower your weight, and smooth the front of your sleeves in one fluid, circular motion. You are now a part of the room's furniture, beautiful, silent presence. As you sit, you begin to practice the art of active waiting. You are not simply sitting. You are absorbing the atmosphere. You listen to the voices of the guests. They are deep and resonant, vibrating in the small space. They talk of the rising prices of silk in the markets, of the new plays at the Minamisa Theatre, and of the changing colors of the maple leaves on the mountainside. The words themselves are less important than the cadence. You hear the pauses, the moments where a guest waits for a response, the subtle shifts in tone that signal a joke or a moment of reflection. You learn to read the room through your ears. One guest, an older man with hands that looked like gnarled cedar roots, tells a story about a journey he took to the north. His voice is slow and gravelly. You watch the way the steam from his teacup rises and curls around his fingers. You do not move. You do not blink. You are a statue of white and blue, but inside, you are cataloguing every gesture. You notice the way he tilts his head when he listens, and the way he taps his fan against his palm when he is thinking. The silence of a mako is a powerful thing. By not speaking, you become a mirror for the guests. They see in your stillness whatever peace they are looking for. You are a point of stability in their fast-moving lives. The occasion gives you a nearly imperceptible nod. It is time for you to serve. You reach for the ceramic sake decanter, the tuku. It is warm to the touch, holding the heat of the water it was nestled in. You move your arm in a long, slow arc. You have practiced this movement 1,000 times in the empty rooms of the okiya, but here, with the weight of the silk and the eyes of the guests upon you, it feels different. It feels significant. You hold the decanter with your right hand and support the base with the fingertips of your left. The fabric of your sleeve is pulled back slightly, revealing the white makeup on your wrist. You pour the sake into a small, shallow cup. Glug, glug, splash. The sound is clear and metallic in the quiet room. You stop just before the liquid reaches the rim, leaving a perfect, tension-filled meniscus at the top. You offer the cup with a bow that is precisely 15 degrees, not too shallow. The guest takes the cup. His fingers brush against yours for a fleeting second. His skin is warm and rough. Yours is cool and powdered. The contrast is a sharp reminder of the two worlds meeting here. He drinks, and you wait. You do not retract your hand until he has set the cup down. Then you turn your attention to the tea. You move to the iron kettle in the corner of the room. The charcoal beneath it is glowing a soft, pulse-like red. You take the bamboo ladle, the hishaku, and dip it into the water. You listen to the sound of the water entering the ladler hollow. Thirsty sound, and then the sound of it being poured into the tea bowler. Full splashing sound. The rhythm of serving is repetitive and calming. Pour, bow, retreat. Pour, bow, retreat. It becomes a dance of hands. You are focused on the geometry of the table, the angles of the cups, and the flow of the liquid. The conversation of the guests becomes a background hum, like the sound of a distant river. You are safe within the ritual. As the hour grows late, the light in the room seems to thicken. The shadows in the corners turn from grey to a deep, velvety black. The smell of the sake and the grilled fish lingers in the air, mixed with the sharp, clean scent of the tea tatami. You find yourself entering a state of deep detachment. Your body is tired, your body is stiff from the obi, and your legs are numb from the kneeling, but your mind is incredibly clear. You feel as though you are floating just a few inches above the floor. You observe your own hands moving as if they belong to someone else. You see the light reflecting off the gold threads in your sleeves, creating tiny sparks of fire every time you move. The guests begin to slow down. Their voices lose their edge, becoming softer and more melodic. One of them begins to hum a folk song, a low, wordless tune that vibrates through the floorboards. You close your eyes for a fraction of a second, letting the sound wash over you. It feels like the pulse of the city itself, slow, ancient, and weary. You notice a small moth that has found its way into the room. It flutters around the paper lantern, its wings making a tiny thrumming sound against the washi. You watch it for a long time. It is a small, fragile life, drawn to the light just as the guests are drawn to the beauty of the tea house. You feel a strange kinship with the moth. You are both part of the evening's theatre. The okasan rises, her silk robes whispering against the mats. This is the signal that the gathering is drawing to a close. You mirror her movement, rising from your knees with a controlled strength that hides the numbness in your feet. You smooth your kimono and stand with your hands tucked into your sleeves. The guests stand as well, their movements heavier and less precise than yours. They bow to the occasion, and then they offer a final, lingering look at you. You bow in return, a slow and graceful incline of the head. You are the last thing they will see as they leave the room, a vision of blue and white. a memory of a time that doesn't belong to the modern world. As they depart, the room feels suddenly vast and empty. The silence that rushes back in is not cold. It is a warm, living thing. You help the tea house staff clear the table, moving with the same deliberate slowness you have maintained all evening. You pick up a discarded fan and close it. Click. The sound echoes in the empty space. You walk back to the entrance of the tea house. The night air outside is even cooler now, and a light mist has begun to roll in from the Kamo River. It hangs in the air like a silver veil, blurring the edges of the buildings and softening the glow of the lanterns. You step back into your okubo. The chime of the bells is the only sound in the narrow street. Arroring, arroring. You follow the okizen back to Ward. The okiya dot. The city is mostly asleep now. The voices are gone, and the shamisen music has ended. The only lights are the small, flickering candles behind the paper screens of the houses you pass. You feel a sense of profound accomplishment, but it is a quiet, internal feeling. You have survived your first night. You have held the silence. You have poured the tea. You have been the mirror. As you walk, you look up at the sky. The moon is a thin, silver sliver, partially obscured by the drifting mist. It looks like the white makeup on your own face. You feel a deep connection to the moon, to the night, and to the city that has sheltered you. The night has a way of stretching itself out in Kyoto, turning the narrow corridors of Gion into a series of interconnected dreams. You find that the routine of the okiya has become less of a set of tasks and more of a natural rhythm, like the steady, slow dripping of water from a bamboo spout in a hidden courtyard. Your body no longer needs to be told how to move. It remembers the weight of the silk, the chill of the tatami in the pre-dawn light, and the specific, hollow sound of the sliding doors. You wake as you always do, when the world is still painted in shades of charcoal and deep indigo. The air in your small room is cool, a gentle touch against your cheek that tells you the seasons are shifting. There is a faint, rhythmic sound against the roof light, misty rain that isn't quite a shower, but more of a damp breath from the sky. Pat, pat, pat. It is a sleepy sound, a repetitive vibration that makes you want to pull the heavy quilts back over your shoulders and sink into the darkness. But you rise. You rise with a slow, deliberate grace that has become your second nature. You fold the bedding, feeling the grain of the cotton beneath your fingertips. Each fold is precise. Each movement is a continuation of the one before it. You are weaving yourself into the fabric of the day. You begin your morning chores in the dim light of a single candle. The flame flickers, casting long, wavering shadows of the wooden beams across the floor. You take your cleaning cloth, damp and cool, and you press it to the dark wood of the hallway. Swish, swish. The sound is a lullaby. You move down the length of the hall, your knees gliding over the mats, your arms moving in a steady, rhythmic arc. You know every knot in the wood, every slight indentation where 100 years of footsteps have left their mark. You feel a deep, quiet kinship with the house. It is a living thing, and you are tending to its skin. As you work, the light outside begins to change. The charcoal grey turns to a soft, pearlescent silver. The mist from the rain clings to the paper screens, turning them into glowing, translucent walls. You stop for a moment, resting your hands on your thighs, and simply breathe. The air smells of wet cedar and the faint, lingering sweetness of the morning's first incense. It is a clean smell, a silent smell. You realize that you no longer feel the need to rush toward the future. The longing you once felt has been replaced by a profound sense of being. You are the girl with the cloth. You are the girl in the shadows. You are exactly where you are meant to be in the slow, turning wheel of the year. The day passes in a blur of familiar practice. The shamisen strings humming under your calloused fingertips. The fan opening with that familiar the tea foam rising in the bowl like a green cloud. And then the sun dips behind the mountains, and it is time for the evening walk. You are dressed in a kimono of a muted, mossy green, decorated with tiny white petals that look like they are floating down a stream. The obi is tied tight, a firm and comforting embrace. You step out of the okiya and into the Kyoto night. The rain has stopped, but the streets are still damp, reflecting the amber glow of the lanterns like dark, liquid silk. You walk slowly on your okibo, aring, clack, aring, clack. The sound of the bells is a rhythmic pulse. It guides your footsteps. You are walking through a city of shadows. The wooden buildings on either side seem to lean in toward you, whispering secrets in the language of creaks and groans. The lanterns sway ever so slightly in the evening breeze, their light pulsing like the heartbeat of a sleeping giant. You pass a small shrine tucked between two tea houses. A single red lantern hangs there, its light casting a warm, crimson glow over a stone fox statue. You pause for a second, bowing your head. The silence here is different. It is a heavy, sacred silence that feels as though it has been undisturbed for centuries. You can hear the distant, muffled sound of the Kamo River, a low, continuous hum that underpins everything in the city. The breeze picks up, carrying the scent of wood smoke and roasted tea. It ruffles the long sleeves of your kimono, making them feel like wings. You feel light, as if your feet aren't quite touching the cobblestones. You are a ghost of the Edo period, a dream walking through a dream, the repetition of the night as you move from one engagement to another. The night becomes a series of repetitive cycles. You enter a tea house, you kneel, you pour, you listen. You exit the tea house, you walk through the mist, you hear the bells dot pour, bow, retreat, aring, clack. The repetition is hypnotic. It strips away the layers of your ego until there is nothing left but the sensation of the silk against your skin and the sound of the wind in the eaves. You watch the guests, but they seem far away, like figures in a painting. Their laughter is a distant melody. Their stories are the rustling of leaves. You find yourself observing the small details of the night with a detached, dreamlike clarity. You notice the way a raindrop clings to the edge of a paper lantern, refracting the orange light until it looks like a tiny sun. You notice the way the mist swirls around the ankles of a passing geisha, making her look as though she is walking on clouds. The city of Kyoto is a clock, and you are one of its many moving parts. Each gear turns at its own pace, but everything is in perfect synchronization. The temple bells chime the hour. The night watchman claps his wooden blocks together clack-clack to warn of fire, and the river flows on toward the sea. You feel a deep sense of safety in this repetition. There are no surprises here. There is only the beauty of the expected. The sun will set, the lanterns will be lit, and you will walk the streets of Gion. It is a promise the city makes to you every night, and it is a promise that is always kept. As you walk back toward the okiya at the end of the night, you notice that the air has grown even cooler. The light rain begins again, a fine, silver mist that dances in the lamplight. It feels like tiny, cold needles against your white-painted face, but you do not flinch. You welcome it. The seasons are changing, and with them, the house will change. Soon, the okasan will bring out the heavier winter quilts. The charcoal brazier will be moved to the center of the room, and the scent of dried orange peels will fill the air. The dance will change to reflect the falling snow, and the shamisen music will grow even more sparse and lonely. But tonight, it is still the time of the mist and the light rain. You reach the door of the okiya and slide it open. The warmth from inside spills out into the street, a golden invitation. You step into the genkan, remove your sandals, and feel the familiar texture of the wood beneath your feet. The house is quiet, save for the rhythmic ticking of a clock and the soft, steady breathing of the other girls in their rooms. You move through the hallway, your sleeves brushing against the walls with a sound like a sigh. You go to the kitchen and pour yourself a cup of cold water. You drink it slowly, feeling the chill travel down your throat. The water is clear and pure, like the night itself. You stand there for a long time, looking out the small window at the courtyard garden. The moss is dark and lush, drinking in the rain. The stone lantern is a silent sentinel in the dark. You return to your room and begin the slow process of undressing. The silk ties are loosened, the obi is unwound, and the layers of the kimono are shed one by one. You feel your body expanding, your breath becoming deeper and slower. You sit at your mirror and wipe away the makeup. As the white paint disappears, you see the face of a girl who has found her place in the world. Your eyes are heavy, your movements sluggish and peaceful. You lie down on the futon. The quilts are cool at first, but they quickly warm to the heat of your body. You listen to the rain on the roof. It is a steady, repetitive beat that drowns out all other thoughts. Pat, 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 you think of the streets of Gion, the amber light of the lanterns, and the silver chime of the bells. You think of the river flowing under the bridges, and the wind and the pine trees on the hills. You are falling. Not a fast fall, but a slow, drifting descent into the depths of sleep. You are like a leaf falling from a maple tree, spiraling down through the cool air until it touches the surface of a still pond. The world of the Mako is fading. The world of the city is fading. There is only the dark, the warmth, and the rhythm of your breath. In, out, in, out. The house is breathing softly now, a slow and rhythmic expansion of cedar and paper. Outside, the light rain has tapered off into a fine, silver mist that clings to the moss in the inner courtyard. You sit on the polished wooden veranda, the ingawa, with your hands tucked into the opposite sleeves of your cotton yukata. Beside you, sitting in a silence so profound it feels like a physical presence, is your senior sister, a geiko whose name is as delicate as a pressed flower. There is no need for conversation. In the world of the flower and willow, words are often seen as a disturbance to the natural flow of the evening. Instead, you share the space. You share the cool air that smells of wet stone and dormant earth. You share the way the light from a single paper lantern inside the room spills out across the dark floorboards, creating a golden path that leads nowhere and everywhere. You watch your senior sister's hands. They are resting in her lap, as still as two sleeping birds. Occasionally, she moves one to adjust the fold of her robe or to lift a small cup of tea. The movement is so economical, so devoid of wasted energy, that it seems to happen in slow motion. You realize that you are learning a new kind of intimacy, one that doesn't require the baring of souls or the sharing of secrets. It is an intimacy of shared discipline. She reaches out and places a small plate of seasonal sweets between you. They are shaped like maple leaves, tinted with the pale oranges and deep reds of the coming autumn. She doesn't say, "Take one." She simply moves the plate 3 inches closer to you. It is a gesture of care, a quiet acknowledgement of your presence. You bow your head slightly, a movement of perhaps 2 inches, to show your gratitude. You take a sweet. The sugar is fine and cool on your tongue, melting slowly, releasing a faint hint of roasted chestnut. You chew slowly, matching the rhythm of your jaw to the steady drip of water from the eaves. Drip, pause, drip. In this moment, you feel a deep, grounding connection to her. You are both woven from the same thread. You both know the weight of the obi, the sting of the cold water in the morning, and the specific ache in the small of the back after hours of kneeling. You don't need to discuss these things. They are the common language of your bodies. Later, as the house prepares for the evening's engagements, the dressing room becomes a sanctuary of collective focus. 3 of you are in the room together, sitting before the tall mirrors. The air is thick with the scent of camellia oil and the powdery, sweet aroma of the white makeup. There is a subtle choreography to the room. When one girl reaches for a brush, another moves a bowl of water to make it easier for her. When a strand of hair falls out of place on your neck, your sister reaches out and tucks it back with a touch so light you barely feel it. It is like a dance performed by shadows. You watch her in the mirror. She is applying the red paint to her lips. She doesn't use a mirror for the final stroke. She knows her own face so well that her hand moves by instinct. You find yourself mimicking her focus. You realize that by watching her, you are absorbing her calm. Her stillness is contagious. It settles over you like a heavy silk quilt, dampening the tiny flickers of anxiety that sometimes arise before a debut. There is a sense of protection in this room. The walls of the okiya are thick, and the traditions are thicker still. Within these walls, you are sisters. You are a family built not of blood, but of shared art and shared silence. You feel the strength of the women who came before you, their presence lingering in the grain of the dressing tables and the frayed edges of the old silk ties. When the time comes to leave, you walk together, to Meiko and one Geiko, moving through the narrow streets of Gion like a fleet of small, colorful boats on a dark river. Your senior sister leads the way. Her footsteps are silent, her gait smooth and unwavering. You follow, your okobo chiming in a steady, hypnotic rhythm. R-ring, R-ring, clack, R-ring, R-ring, clack. The sound of the bells creates a private world for the 3 of you. The tourists on the main street are mere blurs of color and noise, existing on a different frequency. You don't look at them. You look at the back of your sister's neck, at the 2 white prongs of her makeup standing out against the dark indigo of the night. A light breeze passes through the alleyway, carrying the scent of the river. Your sister pauses for a fraction of a second, her head tilting toward the wind. You and the other Meiko pause as well, perfectly in sync. She is listening to the city. She is feeling the shift in the air. After a moment, she continues, and you follow. This silent communication is more profound than any instruction manual. She is teaching you how to belong to the night. Inside the tea house, during the lulls between songs and conversations, you find yourself sitting in the corner with your sisters. The guests are occupied with their own stories, and for a few minutes, you are allowed to simply exist in each other's company. You look at the way your sister holds her fan. It is a subtle signal. The way it is tilted tells you that she is tired, but resolute. You move your hand slightly, a small gesture of solidarity. She catches your eye and offers a tiny, almost invisible smile, mere softening of the muscles around her eyes. This is the beauty of your relationship. It is built on the things that are not said. In a world where you must always be on display, your sisters are the only ones who see the person beneath the paint, and they see her without needing her to speak. The evening progresses like a slow, winding river. You serve tea, you pour sake, you perform the movements of the dance, and through it all, you feel the presence of your sisters like an anchor. If you stumble, they are there to catch the rhythm. If you forget a gesture, they are there to lead your eye. You are not an individual. You are part of a collective consciousness. The walk back is even quieter than the walk there. The city has folded its wings, and the only light comes from the high, cold moon and the few remaining lanterns. You walk side by side now, the strict hierarchy of the path softening as the workday ends. The mist has turned into a light, pervasive dew that sparkles on the silk of your sleeves. Your senior sister reaches out and brushes a stray drop of water from your shoulder. It is a motherly gesture, full of a quiet, unsentimental affection. "You did well tonight," she says. Her voice is a low murmur, barely audible over the chime of your bells. Those 4 words are more valuable to you than any praise from a guest. They carry the weight of her experience and the warmth of her acceptance. You bow your head in the dark, feeling a flush of quiet joy that has nothing to do with excitement, and everything to do with peace. You reach the okiya and step inside. The house is warm, the air smelling of the charcoal that has been banked for the night. You move through the ritual of undressing together, a coordinated effort of unpinning hair and unrolling silk as you sit on the floor, helping each other with the difficult knots of the obi. You feel the physical tension of the day melting away. There is a deep comfort in the touch of another person's hands, the firm, practical movements of a sister who knows exactly how heavy the fabric is done. Now, as you lie on your futon, the house is truly silent, but it is a populated silence. You know that in the room next to yours, your sister is also lying awake for a moment, listening to the same rain on the roof. You are separate, yet you are one. The relationships in the okiya are like the stones in a dry garden. They don't move, they don't shout, but they provide the structure and the beauty of the space. You realize that you are never truly alone. You are part of a lineage, a chain of women stretching back through the centuries, all of whom sat on this same wood and looked at this same moon. You think about the small gestures of the day, the sweets moved closer, the hand on the shoulder, the shared look in the mirror. These are the things that sustain you. These are the things that make the long hours of practice and the weight of the tradition bearable. Your breathing slows. The rhythm of your heart matches the rhythm of the house. You feel a profound sense of gratitude for the silence of your sisters. It is a gift of space, a gift of understanding. The rain starts again, a soft, repetitive patter that lulls you toward the edge of sleep. You imagine the mist rising over the Como River, wrapping the entire city in a blanket of silver. You imagine the lanterns of Gion flickering out, one by one, until only the moonlight remains. You are sinking into the darkness, but you are not afraid. You are held by the history of the house and the quiet companionship of the women who sleep around you. You are a flower in a garden of many flowers, all of us waiting for the morning light to touch the petals. The world has grown very quiet now, as if the city of Kyoto has drawn a deep, icy breath and held it. The vibrant greens of the moss and the fiery oranges of the maple leaves have long since faded, replaced by a palette of slate grey, deep charcoal, and the startling, pure white of the first heavy snow. You are sitting in the small tea room of the okiya, your hands wrapped around a ceramic bowl of roasted twig tea. The warmth of the clay seeps into your palms, a slow and steady heat that combats the thin, sharp chill of the winter air outside the paper screens. The snow is falling. It does not fall with the haste of rain. It drifts, weightless and erratic, like the downy feathers of 1,000 white birds. You watch the silhouettes of the flakes against the shoshi screens. They cast tiny, fleeting shadows that dance for a second before vanishing into the general glow of the winter light. The sound of the snow is the sound of absolute silence. It smothers the city, dampening the distant ring of temple bells and the occasional cry of a crow, until the world feels as though it is made of cotton wool in the winter. The okiya becomes a different creature. The wood of the hallways seems to contract, groaning softly in the night as it huddles against the cold. The air is crystalline and still. When you move, you can see the faint, ghostly mist of your own breath. A rhythmic reminder of your own life in the stillness. The routine has slowed to a crawl. In these deep months of frost, there are fewer gatherings. The guests stay in their own warm homes, and the tea houses of Gion dim their lanterns early. This lack of rush is not a void. It is a luxury. It is a time for the inner life of the house to flourish. You spend hours sitting by the hibachi, the charcoal brazier. You watch the white ash settle over the glowing red heart of the coals. It is a hypnotic sight, the way the fire breathes beneath its grey shroud, pulsing with a heat that is ancient and patient. You take a small iron poker and stir the ash, scritch, slide. The sound is dry and dusty. A small spark leaps up, a tiny orange star that lives for a heartbeat before winking out. You realize that your own life has become like this fire-contained, focused, and quietly burning. The long hours of practice have settled into your bones. You no longer think about the placement of your fingers on the shamisen. You simply wait for the music to arrive. When you must leave the house, the preparation is an exercise in endurance and grace. The silk of the winter kimono is heavier, a thick crate that holds the cold until the warmth of your body slowly tames it. You wear extra layers of fine wool beneath the silk, a hidden cocoon of heat. Stepping out into the street is a shock of purity. The air is so cold it feels sharp in your lungs, like drinking from a mountain spring. The cobblestones of Gion are hidden beneath a thick, white mantle. Your okubo sandals, usually so rhythmic and loud, make a different sound today. Crump. Muffled chime, crump. The snow packs into the hollows of the wood, silencing the bells. You walk with short, tentative steps, feeling the resistance of the drifts against your ankles. The world is monochromatic. The dark wooden walls of the houses stand in stark contrast to the white roofs and the white ground. It is as if you are walking through an inkwash painting, a sumi landscape where the artist has used only the most essential strokes. You pass a stone lantern at the corner of an alley. A thick cap of snow sits atop it, looking like a scholar's hat. A single icicle hangs from the eaves of a nearby tea house, catching the pale, weak light of the winter sun. It is a perfect, frozen needle of glass. You stop to look at it, marveling at the way time has been captured and held still in that single drop of frozen water. In this season, you feel as though you, too, are suspended in glass back inside the house. The afternoons stretch out like long shadows. You and your sisters gather in the main room, not to work, but to simply be. One sister is mending a silk hem, her needle moving in and out of the fabric with a tiny, rhythmic pop, pop. Another is practicing a slow, seated dance, her hands tracing patterns in the air that look like the falling snow itself. You find yourself drawn to the calligraphy set. You grind the inkstone, adding a few drops of water until the black pool is thick and lustrous. The smell of the ink is earthy and soot-like, a grounding scent that clears your mind. You take the brush-fine rabbit hair and dip it into the blackness. You do not write words of excitement. You write the character for quiet. You write the character for snow. You write the character for weight. Each stroke is a meditation. You feel the resistance of the paper, the way the ink bleeds into the fibers, creating soft, blurred edges. You move the brush with your whole body, your breath flowing out as the ink flows. Down, sweep, press, lift. The repetition of the characters becomes a prayer for the season. You are documenting the stillness. The occasion comes in and places a tray of roasted oranges on the floor. The skin of the fruit is charred and bubbling, releasing a sharp, citrusy perfume that cuts through the heavy scent of the charcoal. You peel the orange slowly, the steam rising from the segments. The juice is sweet and hot, a burst of summer hidden in the heart of the winter. You eat in silence, the only sound being the soft crackle of the fire and the distant, muffled thump of snow sliding off a roof as the sun sets a pale, lemon-colored orb that sinks quickly behind the white peaks. The house enters its most beautiful hour. The blue of the twilight is so deep it feels like it could stain your skin. The lanterns are lit, but their glow is different in the snow. The light doesn't travel as far. It is held close by the flakes, creating soft, golden halos around every lamp. You prepare for a small, private gathering. There is no large party tonight, only a single regular guest who wishes to hear the shamisen while the snow falls. The dressing ritual is slower tonight. You take your time with the makeup, the white paste feeling like a second layer of frost on your skin. You choose a kimono of deep plum, the color of the sky just before the stars appear. You move to the guest room. The screens are slid open just a crack, enough to see the garden. The stone basin is frozen solid, a disk of grey ice reflecting the moon. The maple tree is a skeleton of silver, its branches weighed down by the white burden of the storm. You take up the shamisen. You do not play a fast song. You play a piece called the plover, a melody of long, sustained notes and shivering vibrations. Ting, vibrate. Silence. The sound carries out into the garden and seems to be absorbed by the snow. You feel the cold air from the gap in the screen touching your cheek, but the warmth of the brazier at your back keeps you anchored. You are the bridge between the fire and the frost. You are the music that exists between the earth and the sky. The guest sits in a trance, his eyes closed. He is not looking at you. He is listening to the winter. You realize that your role tonight is not to entertain, but to provide a soundtrack for his own reflection. You are the weaver of the atmosphere. When the guest leaves, and the house is locked for the night, the silence returns with a double intensity. You walk through the dark hallways, your footsteps light and careful. You do not want to disturb the peace that is settled over the wood. You go to the kitchen to fetch a final basin of water. The pipes are cold, and the water comes out with a sharp, metallic bite. You wash your hands, feeling the skin tingle as the circulation returns. You look out the window at the sky. The clouds have parted, and the stars are out. They are hard and bright, like diamonds scattered on a floor of black velvet dot. You think about how long this city has endured these winters. You think about the generations of Mako who have stood in this same spot, feeling this same cold, watching these same stars. The thought is not heavy. It is a comfort. You are a small part of a very long, very quiet story. Your presence here is a flicker in the grand scheme of time, but it is a flicker that matters. You go to your room and prepare your food. You have an extra heavy quilt tonight, a thick layer of silk covered down that feels like a warm cloud. You lie down and pull it up to your chin. The room is dark, save for the faint, silvery light of the moon reflecting off the snow outside. It filters through the shoji, casting a pale, ghostly glow over everything. You can see the outline of your shamisen in the corner, a dark, elegant shape waiting for tomorrow. You listen to your breath. It is slow and steady, in, out. The world is perfectly still. There is no wind, no rain, no sound of footsteps. There is only the snow, falling and falling, covering the world in a blanket of peace. You feel your limbs growing heavy, your thoughts turning into soft, white drifts of cloud. You are sinking into the heart of the winter. You are becoming a part of the white silence. The city of Kyoto is sleeping beneath its white shroud. The temples are silent. The river is a dark ribbon through the ice. And you, in your warm cocoon, are drifting into a dream of spring. A dream of plum blossoms and green moss. But for now, the winter is enough. The winter is perfect. The winter snow has begun to recede, leaving behind a world that is damp, dark, and profoundly quiet. The transition from the deep freeze to the first tentative thaws of early spring is not a sudden event. It is a series of microscopic shifts in the atmosphere. You sit in the quiet of the morning, watching the way the moisture clings to the black bark of the cherry trees in the courtyard. The air is still cold, but it no longer bites. Instead, it carries a soft, heavy humidity that smells of waking earth and old stone. You find that you no longer need to consciously remind yourself of your posture. Your spine has become a supple pillar of habit. When you sit, you do not position yourself. You simply arrive. Your weight settles into the tatami with a grounded certainty that was not there in your first year. You are no longer fighting the layers of silk or the stiffness of the obi. They have become an extension of your own skin, a protective shell that moves as you move, breathing when you breathe. The daily chores, once a source of aching knees and tired shoulders, have become a form of moving meditation. You take the wooden bucket to the well, and the sound of the rope sliding over the pulley is a familiar, low-frequency hum or splash. The water is cold, but your hands have grown accustomed to it. You do not flinch. You dip your cloth and begin the long, rhythmic walk down the hallway. Swish, swish, swish. You notice that your mind no longer wanders to the future or the past as you clean. You are entirely present in the friction between the cloth and the cedar. You can feel, through the fabric, the slight variations in the wood's temperature. You can hear the difference in the sound the cloth makes when it passes over a knot versus a smooth grain. This is the quiet confidence of experience, the realization that there is no small task. Every motion is an opportunity for grace. You finish the hallway and stand at the end of it, looking back. The wood glows with a soft, deep luster that only comes from years of such attention. You do not feel pride, but a sense of rightness. You are a steward of this house, a participant in its longevity. You take a slow, deep breath, feeling the cool air expand in your lungs. And then you move to the next task with a gait that is as fluid and silent as a shadow. In the practice room, the shamisen feels different in your hands than it did in the beginning. It no longer feels like a difficult instrument you must conquer. It feels like a voice you are merely allowing to speak. You sit before the music stand, but you do not look at the notations. They are etched into the muscles of your arms. You strike the string, ting. The note is rounder now, fuller. You understand the pressure required to make the silk vibrate just so. You find yourself leaning into the silence between the notes, comfortable with the emptiness. You are no longer afraid that the silence will be too long. You know exactly when the next note should emerge, like a single drop of water falling from a leaf into a still pool. Ting, pause, vibrate. Your teacher sits across from you, her eyes closed. She does not offer corrections anymore. She simply breathes with you. The two of you are like two pendulums that have eventually found the same frequency. The music fills the room, but it doesn't disturb the piece. It is a part of the air. When you finish the piece, you lay the bocce down with a movement so precise and soft that it makes no sound against the mat. You bow, and the movement is not a performance for her. It is a gesture of respect for the art itself. The dance, too, has changed. When you unfold the fan, it is no longer a conscious effort of the wrist. Your arm moves, and the fan follows. You feel the weight of the lead at the base of the sensu, and you use that weight to guide the arc of your gesture. You are learning the beauty of minimum effort. You move through the shurioshi walk, and your upper body remains as still as a lamp on a calm night. You are not doing the dance. You are the dance. The distinction between your body and the space around it has begun to blur. When evening falls, and you walk through the streets of Gion, you feel a deep sense of belonging. The tourists still point, and the cameras still click, but you do not hear them. They are ripples on the surface of a deep lake, and you are the water far below. You walk with your chin slightly tucked, your eyes focused a few feet ahead of you on the damp cobblestones, ahring clack. The chime of your bells is a constant companion, a rhythmic heartbeat that paces your journey. You pass the familiar landmarks, the red gate of the Yasaka shrine, the dark mouth of a favorite alleyway, the glowing sign of a familiar tea house. You know the history of these stones. You know which boards in the bridges creak and which lanterns are prone to flickering in the wind. You are no longer a guest in this city. You are a part of its infrastructure. You are as much a fixture of Gion as the willow trees and the river. This realization brings a profound sense of calm. There is no longer the need to prove yourself to the world. You simply exist, a moving piece of a 1,000-year-old puzzle. The breeze is turning warmer, carrying the faint sweet scent of the first plum blossoms from the Kitano Tenmangu shrine. It is a powdery, delicate fragrance that speaks of resilience. You pause on the Shihu Bridge, looking down at the Como River. The water is dark and swift, carrying the melted snow from the mountains. You watch the reflections of the lanterns dancing on the surface, shreds of gold and orange being pulled along by the current. You feel like that water moving, changing, yet always remaining the river. At the evening gatherings, your interactions with the guests have become effortless. You no longer worry about what to say or how to pour. You read the subtle cues of the room without thinking. You notice when a guest's cup is nearly empty before they do. You sense when a conversation is drawing to a natural close, and you prepare the tea at the perfect moment to facilitate the transition. You sit in the corner, a silent observer of the human condition. You see the weariness in the eyes of the businessmen, the spark of joy in the eyes of an old friend, the quiet reflection of a scholar. You offer them your stillness. You find that often what the guests want most is not a song or a joke, but a space where they don't have to be anything other than themselves. By being a perfect, silent mirror, you allow them that space. When you do speak, your voice is low and carefully modulated. You use fewer words than you used to, choosing only those that add something to the atmosphere. Your speech has become like your music, punctuated by meaningful pauses. You find that people listen more closely when you speak less. One guest, an elderly woman who has been coming to Gion for 50 years, looks at you and nods. It is a look of recognition, one artisan acknowledging another. She sees the work you have put in. She sees the way you hold your fan, the way you tilt your head. No words are exchanged, but the connection is deep and satisfying. It is the quiet validation of a life lived with intention. The walk back to the okiya at the end of the night is a time of deep reflection. The city is nearly empty, the mist rising from the river to wrap the wooden houses in a silver shroud. You walk alone tonight, the occasion having gone ahead. You find yourself stopping by a small, stone Jizo statue at the edge of the district. The statue is worn smooth by centuries of rain and touch. Someone has placed a small red bib around its neck and a single white camellia at its feet. You stand there for a moment, the silence of the night pressing in on you. You feel a sense of immense gratitude for the path you are on. It is a hard path, yes, but it is a path of beauty and discipline. It is a path that asks you to be better every day, to be more refined, more patient, more still, that you reach the okiya and slide the door open. The sound is a soft, welcoming sigh. You step inside and remove your sandals. The floorboards are cool under your feet, a familiar grounding force. You move through the house with the ease of someone who knows every shadow and every light dot in the dressing room. You begin to remove the layers of your evening. The process is faster now, but no less deliberate. You fold the silk with a practiced hand, feeling the texture of the embroidery. You remove the pins from your hair, feeling the release of tension in your scalp. You wipe away the makeup, and the face that emerges in the mirror is older, wiser, and more settled. The girl who arrived here in the rain, wide-eyed and uncertain, is still there, but she is buried beneath layers of experience and grace. She is the foundation upon which this Mako is built. You lie down on your futon, the heavy quilt settling over you like a warm blanket of earth. You listen to the sounds of the early spring night. The rain has started again, a soft, persistent drizzle that whispers against the paper screens. She, your thoughts are slow and languid. You think about the plum blossoms and the way they bloom even when the air is cold. You think about the river and the way it never stops moving. You think about the shamisen and the silence that follows the final note. You are not thinking about tomorrow. You are not thinking about the next gathering or the next lesson. You are simply here, in this moment, in this bed, in this house. You feel a profound sense of peace. Your heart rate is slow and steady, matching the rhythm of the rain. The air in the okiya tonight feels as though it has been distilled through 100 years of quiet evenings. It is a thick, velvet silence, broken only by the rhythmic, slow-motion ticking of the tall clock in the hallway and the distant, almost imperceptible sigh of the wind through the bamboo in the courtyard. You are sitting in your favorite spot on the veranda, the wood beneath you worn to a soft, silk-like finish by decades of your own presence. You look at your hands. They are no longer the smooth, unwritten hands of the young girl who arrived here in the spring rain. They are hands that have held 1,000 tea bowls, plucked 1,000,000 notes from the silk strings of the shamisen. unfolded 10,000 kimonos with the precision of a priestess. You trace the faint lines on your palms, seeing in them the map of a life lived entirely within the narrow, beautiful borders of Gyan. It is a life of circles, the circle of the seasons, the circle of the tea whisk, the circle of the dance. As you sit in the deepening twilight, the memories do not come to you as events, but as sensations. You don't remember your debut. You feel the weight of the Dara robe against your spine and the cool, damp touch of the first application of chironery on your neck. You don't remember the thousands of nights in the tea houses. You hear the specific clack of a fan closing in a crowded room, and the smell of expensive incense drifting through a screen of sliding paper. Time in Kyoto does not move in a straight line. It moves like the water in the Kamo River, always flowing, always the same, yet never the same water twice. You have watched the cherry blossoms bloom and fall, until the sight of a single white petal drifting through the air feels like a conversation with an old friend. You have seen the snow cover the stone lanterns and the sun bake the moss, and through it all, the routine has been your anchor. Wake, clean, practice, dress, serve, sleep. This repetition, which might seem like a burden to the world outside, has been your liberation. By doing the same things every day with total devotion, you have reached a place where the self disappears. You are no longer you doing the task. There is only the task itself. The floor is cleaned, the tea is poured, the music is played. You have become a transparent vessel for the tradition. The sun has disappeared behind the western hills, leaving a sky the color of a bruised plum. The shadows in the garden are stretching out, reaching for the edges of the veranda. You watch a single sparrow land on the stone basin. It dips its beak into the water, creating a series of tiny, perfect ripples that expand until they touch the mossy rim. Plink, ripple, silence. You realize that your life has been like those ripples. You have moved through the world with a quiet intention, creating small circles of beauty and peace in the lives of those you served. You have been a listener, a witness, a keeper of secrets. The guests you entertained are gone, some to other cities, some to the ancestors, but the feeling of the evenings you shared remains in the wood of this house. You feel a profound sense of gratitude for the silence. In a world that is always shouting, you have been taught the value of a pause. You know that the most important part of a conversation is the breath taken before an answer. You know that the most powerful part of a dance is the moment of absolute stillness before the fan is opened. You have made a career out of the spaces between things. You rise from the veranda, your movements so slow and practiced that they seem to be part of the fading light itself. You walk through the hallway, and you don't even need to look at the floor to know where the boards are slightly uneven. Your feet know this house better than they know your own reflection. You enter the dressing room. It is empty now, the younger Mako having already left for their evening appointments. The scent of their preparation lingers in the air, a ghostly mix of camellia oil and sweet powder. You touch the surface of your old dressing table. The wood is cool and smooth. You think of all the faces that have looked into this mirror, the nervous girls, the confident women, the aging masters. You are no longer the one under the lights, but you are the one who holds the light for the others. You have become the occasion of your own spirit. You understand now that the goal was never to be the most famous or the most beautiful. The goal was to be the most present, to be a point of stillness in a turning world. You take a small cloth and wipe a speck of dust from the table. Swish. Even now, the movement is a prayer. You are still tending to the wood. you are still honoring the grain. You go to your room. It is the same room you have slept in for years, yet every night it feels new. The paper screens are a soft, glowing amber, lit by a single lantern in the hall. You sit on your futon and listen to the city. Gion is waking up for its nighttime theater. You hear the distant, rhythmic clack-clack of geta on the stones. It is a sound that has not changed in 300 years. It is a comforting sound, a heartbeat that tells you the world is still there, still moving, still beautiful. Clack, clack, clack. The sound fades as the walker turns a corner. The silence returns, but it is a rich, textured silence. You hear the rustle of the bamboo outside. You hear the low hum of a heater in a distant room. You hear the blood moving in your own ears, soft, rushing sound, like a faraway ocean. You begin to prepare for bed. You remove your simple cotton robe and fold it. You do not rush. You feel the texture of the fabric, the coolness of the air on your skin. You move with a deliberate, hypnotic slowness. Each gesture is a closing of a chapter, a preparation for the blank page of sleep. You lie down. The futon is firm and supportive, a familiar embrace. You pull the quilt up, and the weight of it feels like the weight of your entire life, heavy, warm, and meaningful. You feel your muscles letting go, one by one. Your toes, your ankles, your knees, your hands, which have done so much work, finally rest at your sides. Open and empty. As you lie there, you think about the nature of time. We think of time as a thief, taking things away from us. But in the okiya, you have learned that time is a builder. It builds the polish on the wood, the depth in the music, and the peace in the heart. A life lived in routine is not a boring life. It is a deep life. It is like a well that is dug in the same spot every day until it reaches the pure, cool water at the center of the earth. You have reached that water. You have found the source of the stillness. You think of a poem you once learned, about a leaf falling into a stream. The leaf doesn't struggle against the current. It doesn't try to go back to the tree. It simply floats, letting the water take it wherever it needs to go. You are that leaf. The stream is the tradition, the house, the city of Kyoto. You are part of the flow. Your breathing is very slow now. In, out. The world is dissolving. The boundaries of the room are blurring. The sounds of Gion are becoming a part of your own internal landscape. You are no longer a geisha. You are the wood of the house, the mist on the river, the light in the lantern. You are the silence itself. The darkness is not an empty space. It is a soft, welcoming ocean. You are sinking into it, drifting down through layers of blue and violet and grey. There is no fear. There is only a profound sense of completion. You have played your part. You have worn the silk. You have poured the tea. You have held the silence. And now, the silence is holding you. The clock in the hall ticks one last time in your conscious mind. Tick, and then. The space between the ticks grows longer and longer, until the next one doesn't matter. You are floating on a sea of soft, dark velvet. The shadows of the bamboo dance on your eyelids, a final, silent performance. You feel the coolness of the night air on your forehead, a gentle benediction. Everything is as it should be. The routine will continue tomorrow. The water will splash in the basin. The cloth will swish on the wood. The bells will chime in the street. The world will go on, beautiful and slow, and you will be a part of it, even in your sleep. Close your eyes, completely now. Let the last thread of thought snap gently. There is nothing left to do. There is nothing left to be. You are the breath. You are the stillness. You are the night. Slowly, the world of the flower and the willow fades into a soft, grey mist. The lanterns flicker out. The river flows in silence. The city of Kyoto sleeps, and you sleep with it, tucked into the heart of the history, safe in the arms of the routine, forever a part of the quiet, beautiful turning of the world good night. Sleep now. Let the time carry you softly away into the deep, dark peace of the ages.